back to Cherry Bekaert's Government and Public Sector podcast series. This will be the second in our mini-series about library systems. My name is Becky Buczek, and I am a Client Success Manager at Cherry Bekaert. Cherry Bekaert's Government and Public Sector group has been working with the Maryland State Libraries for over 7 years. We have helped them implement Tableau, develop a data strategy and architecture, and have assisted with building out reporting to help run the library successfully. This work has really helped to build out a footprint of Tableau within the Maryland library system. Today, we have Courtney Brohawn from Frederick County Public Libraries to speak with us about her experience in libraries and working with Tableau. Courtney, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Becky. Thanks for having me. I am Frederick County Public Libraries project coordinator, and I've been in this position for about 7 years. My duties include assisting with system-wide projects that are usually focused on operations management, so a lot of back-of-house projects. But one of the, core aspects of my job is collecting our system's data, and we have a lot of it, and kind of making that into reports to hopefully provide some insights that will help us make decisions on how to direct our system's operations. And I love my job.
Well, great. We are so excited to have you here today. So let me just start, if you don't mind, I'll start asking you some questions to dig in a little bit more so that our listeners can hear sort of about your experience and what's been going on. So I guess my first question is, can you talk about Frederick County Public Libraries and the communities that you serve in general?
Sure. I actually was born and raised in Frederick County, so I've seen it change quite a bit over the past. It is unique because it's the largest county as far as size. We don't have the largest population. There's only about 270,000 residents, but with it being so large, that presents a challenge just because we have a large service area. Our communities themselves are diverse, and they're becoming more diverse, certainly in the past 10 years. We still do have a lot of active farms, and we have pockets of the county, especially in the north and the southwest part of the county, which are very much still rural. In the center of the county is Frederick City, and that has actually grown quite a bit. 20% in the past year. So that's kind of exploding. And then we have the eastern part of our county, which is closer to DC and Baltimore. And we're seeing a lot of residents from those areas move over here just because prices are a little bit cheaper and also it's a little more rural. But yeah, that's been a unique experience for me just to see this county grow. But our library system 9 locations. We also have 2 bookmobiles, and we recently got a transit vehicle, which will be used especially for outreach events, because again, it's important to get into the areas where we don't have a physical building yet. We also have a book bike, which is new, and that's exciting. Nice. We ride it along our creek downtown and in bike paths, but that's just kind of a fun, unique way to reach customers. Yeah. So we're a mid-sized library. We have about 250 staff members, and we are continuing to grow. We actually are planning our 10th location, which should be built, I think, in the next 3 years.
Well, that's exciting.
It is.
So given that your library system has been growing, and they're assuming there is a lot of data that's coming from all of these different areas, what are some challenges that you find that you've been faced with or that you've been able to overcome in gathering that data and utilizing it effectively?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There actually is a surprising amount of data that was very eye-opening when I started working for the system, because truly we're trying to collect everything we can and measure everything we can, because it's so important to understand that so that we are able to better serve our customers. We're able to pivot our operations, and also we need it to advocate for funding. So it is critical. Some of the biggest challenges I've noticed, and I know other libraries share it, is we have a lot of digital resources, and those are continuing to grow. But with that, you get that from a number of vendors, and every vendor seems to have a different way to measure this data. So we have to try to find a consistent metric, and then it's a very manual process. We actually have to go to websites and pull this data out every month or every week or whenever it's needed. It's not really able to be automated.
That can be challenging for sure.
Yes. And we have one person that does that. Thank goodness she does. It's not me, but she provides it every month.
That's great.
We do a lot of programming too for our customers. And when we do our programming, we don't ask them to have a library card because they don't need that to attend any of our programs. But the only challenge with that is we don't always have a good idea of who's attending our programs. That would be helpful just to, I guess, tailor the programs if we had some basic information. So, that's a hurdle we face. And I'm trying to think what else. We did migrate to a new integrated library system in the past 2 years. And what that is it houses everything. It houses our catalog, our materials management, our customer information. That was a big project. And anytime you're migrating to a new system like that, you have to discover it. You have to train your staff. You have to learn the limitations it has based on from the other ILFs that we had, but also what else it can offer. That's been a big project over the past few years. And actually, Cherry Bekaert has been really helpful in transitioning from our old data to the new our old ILS to the new ILS in Tableau, which has been a huge help. So we can have some continuity in our data.
Yeah. And it actually, along those lines, with there being, even if the old ILS system, new ILS system, switching over and then pulling data from all of these other different sources, do you feel like the libraries in general are well suited to be able to use the data to even improve like your internal operations?
Oh, yeah. We absolutely rely on that data. It's really important to our operations. It can be something as simple as looking at our customer traffic to understand our staffing needs. Days of the week where it's higher, our hours. We have service points. Some libraries actually have many different service points. So that's been helpful to look at for our staff. Program development, again, I said before, we don't have specific details on who is coming, but we are able to track the attendance, and we can look at that by the day of the week or the type of program or who was the program intended for the audience, and we can look at trends that way. And actually, Cherry Bekaert, one of my favorite dashboards they created, really ties that in. You can look at it by a children's. You can get actually very detailed by location, what type of audience, and then it'll look at the days of the week and the average number of attendees per program. And that's been really helpful to know when to do our programming.
Right. Yeah, I would think even not when thinking about those types of factors that play into even like timing of your program during the day, like what times would be most effective for varying audiences.
Absolutely.
So the internal operations, how do you sort of flip that around? You can gain some insight from what you said, but also looking at how do you use that data to assist in serving your communities?
Oh, yeah. That's another component too, obviously internal operations, but we look outward a lot to our community to see what's changing, to pivot our operations to their needs. Um, One thing our system is really focused on, and I think a lot of library systems are right now, having a big diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative, and it's very important to Frederick County Public Libraries. And so we have really been looking at our data to figure out how can we service our community, and that's looking inward and outward. So we might look outward at our community, for example, the language needs. Our Hispanic population and our non-English speaking population has been growing. So we are looking at that data, and that's going to inform our collection, our world language collection. So that's really important, so that everybody has the ability to use our services.
That's super insightful. Even just, it's great that you all are thinking in such a broad perspective of how you can use the data in ways that you might not have ever thought about using it, or that you might not have had it right at your fingertips to even be able to use it that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And even thinking of staffing, as our community changes, we want to look at our staffing and making sure that our staffing is diverse as well.
Yeah.
I had talked before about our digital resources, and we've had a lot more use in that. More customers have become comfortable with our digital resources. So again, that's another way we can service our community, is by putting more resources into that, into that collection, so that they have more options. I'm trying to think what else. Let's see. Tech needs, that's a big thing. Like I said before, a lot of areas in our county are still very rural. And something as simple as Wi-Fi, it's still not accessible in all of our areas. So making sure that we have Wi-Fi hotspots, and then laptop kits with a Wi-Fi hotspot added to our collection.
Yeah.
That's
interesting. And yeah, that's actually thinking about, looking at digital and people being able to access information. I want to get in a few minutes sort of how you were affected by the pandemic and how that changed things. But I guess first, let's look at what did you see prior to the pandemic? What were some trends that were evident in your libraries before that took place?
Yeah. We were, let's see, wow, way back in 2019, 2020, we were seeing, it was actually a wonderful year for us as far as some of our metrics were concerned, because that is what I look at. We had the highest circulation we had to date. We had a lot of new card holders. Of course, it was still our focus to try to gain more and reach out in the community. But that was a high watermark for us that year. We saw that our customers were slowly becoming more comfortable with our digital resources. I think at that time it accounted for about a quarter of our total circulation, but it was still mostly physical materials that they did want. They wanted to come into the library and actually check out, books and audiobooks, and believe it or not, CD books were circulating quite heavily. I did get the sense, and this has been, again, a trend that most libraries had seen over the past 10 years, that libraries were becoming more of a way to connect with the community. They were coming for, our programming, or just needing meeting spaces. So that was certainly something that we had noticed before COVID had happened.
Okay. Yeah, so thinking about all of that and how things were prior, how do you feel like the pandemic affected those trends? And then what adjustments did the library have to make to keep your services available to the community while that was happening?
Yeah, I think that took, all industries were kind of in a panic And the
Yeah.
library was no exception to that, because we had operated by providing most of our services to our customers in our buildings. And suddenly we didn't have that options. Our buildings shut down. And so we had to quickly pivot and think, oh my gosh, how are we going to get these services to our community if we don't have our buildings open? One of the very first things we did, and I was actually very proud of our staff doing this so quickly. I think it was the day after we closed. We had our very first virtual program. We had never had that. And it was offered on Facebook, and it was geared toward, it was a children's program, because we knew, families would be scrambling, and all of a sudden they need to occupy their kids and keep them engaged while they're trying to figure out what is going on. So we started that, and we just ran with it. We did teen programs and adult programs. So thanks to our talented and creative staff, we were able to get that going. We, prior to COVID, didn't have a curbside service available. We eventually developed that during the first few months, where customers could drive up and pick out physical materials. We did see that a lot of our customers were becoming more comfortable with our digital resources because they were forced to, really. I mean, a lot of our community didn't want to leave their home. So we allocated more resources to our digital content. And with that, we developed an opportunity for our customers to get a digital card. Prior to that, we did not have that. You had to come into a branch or get a card while we were doing an outreach. So on our website, they could log in and get a card, and they could check out our digital resources, which was huge. We did also want to continue to provide Wi-Fi for our customers. So we expanded our signal to 200 feet outside of each library. So that was
nice.
That was helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did a lot during that time.
Yeah.
I think we were successful in still providing a lot of our key services to our community.
Great. So I know, I just want to touch quickly. I know we're running short on time, but I wanted to touch a little bit quickly on, I know in working with the libraries that some of the types of reporting that has been done with Tableau is like circulation reports, visiting habits, programming, looking at a board report to share all of this with, the board. Looking ahead, where do you see things headed in the future in terms of how data and reporting can enhance the library experience?
Yeah, it's exciting to think of the reports we could develop in the future, and have already started to discuss with Cherry Bekaert. One thing we really want to do is get a deeper dive into our collections, because we do have a large physical collection, and it's important to have that information at your fingertips. With so many changing policies that we've had over the past few years, we did Go Find Free, and we just initiated auto renewals late last year.
Great.
This impacts your collection. We're having more customers come to us, but also materials are being held on to a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And so, we recently noticed there isn't quite as much on the shelf. So that's one thing I've been discussing, getting and it's actually almost developed, a checkout report where we can quickly see by collection location and age group what's on the shelf and what's checked out. So we can monitor that, and our library collections department can purchase more materials as needed, and they know where to do that. I've talked previously about our DEI efforts, and also wanting to reach new customers and developing a mapping tool that can provide us kind of a look at our community in a different way. We could see where our customers are physically on a map, but also where our customers aren't and where we need to go out into the community to reach them.
Yeah.
So those will be the focus for us in the
Great.
future.
Yeah. I think that mapping tool is an incredible way to, like you said, not only see where people are, but seeing where you're not getting, where you don't have a lot of customers is probably even more valuable, so that you can really fine tune how to maybe reach that population. So yeah, finishing up here, I guess just one question I'd like to ask you is just if there's one thing that listeners should take away from today's podcast, what would you say that would be?
That libraries are deeply committed to their communities. I've so enjoyed working for our library system the past 7 years. That was a new experience for me to be in a service industry, and that they really truly use every resource available to try to tailor what we provide to meet the unique needs of all of our customers. And truly all of our staff deeply cares about our community. So, it's a rewarding job, and I think we do a lot of good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be a part of it.
You all definitely do that for sure. All right. Well, thank you, Courtney. I am going to wrap things up here. So please subscribe wherever you usually listen to your podcast, and stay tuned for our next government and public sector episode. If you do have any questions, we can easily be reached by email, or you can check us out on cbh.com and you can fill out the contact form there. My email address is Rebecca, Rebecca.Buczek, Buczek @cbh.com. And Courtney can be reached at her email, which is C as in cat, B as in boy, ROHAWN @frederickcountymd.gov. So thank you for listening, and thanks again, Courtney, for joining us today. You've been a delight, and you've really offered some great insight into the libraries.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.